Yes!
What's up, and welcome back to Congruent Academy, the place for people in process. If you're new here, I'm Cal, and I'm getting my act together one video at a time. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how I started reading more. I don't know about you, but for the longest time, I thought reading was a fundamentally boring activity when you compare it to the entertainment that we hold in the palm of our hands today. But the benefits of reading are innumerable. I feel like I'm actually using my brain again, which is a welcome respite from the mindlessness of an endless scroll. Plus, reading different stories and encountering new perspectives is overall having a tangible benefit on my quality of life. By using some of these tips I'm about to share, I have gone from someone who hardly reads at all to being someone who picks up a book pretty much every day. So if you want to start reading more, I hope that these tips that I've been using will be helpful to you. Of course, watching this video is not enough. Taking action is critical. There are a lot of channels out there that I would watch all the time with great tips, but without actually implementing those tips, it ended up being a total waste of time, which is the last thing I want to do for you. As I am broadcasting to you from the room for improvement, I just want to remind you watching in this video that I am a work in progress just like you. I'm just sharing some ideas that I find helpful and meaningful with the hope that someone out there will resonate with them. I'm not perfect, I'm working on these things as well. Now, let's get into it. Number 1, pick a book that you're interested in. Maybe it's just me, but when we grow up, too often in school, the joy of reading a book can become a form of work because we're reading the book to write the essay to get the grade. I understand now in hindsight that the process of reading, thinking, forming thoughts into an essay are all designed to get us better at thinking and articulating our thoughts. But at the time in school, it's really easy to lose sight of that. Today, now that I read more for pleasure and less to write an academic essay, I find that the books that I choose are on subjects that actually pique my interest, and so I no longer experience that same aversion to reading that I did in school. Now, of course, interests change over time, and some books will have their dull moments. There's nothing wrong with putting a book down if it stops being interesting to you. You can always come back to it later. What's more important is recognizing that reading things that are interesting to you will increase the chances that you will read more. It certainly has for me. Number 2, stop comparing your reading journey to others. I don't know about you, but I used to worry that if I wasn't reading the classics or scientific journals all the time, that people would judge what I was reading quite critically. The fear of judgment and comparison actually kept me from reading for a long time. Now that I'm reading habitually, I can see that me being insecure about what I'm reading was really me comparing myself and what I was reading to other people. And it's like anything that you're new to. There are always going to be people who are at a more advanced level than you. At a certain point, you have to accept that, but that doesn't mean it stands in the way of you picking up a book today. Like Dr. Seuss once said, be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. We all have different entry points into reading. If it becomes a question of taste, that opens up an entirely separate conversation. But ultimately, reading is an activity that allows me to learn and develop my interests. And so you'll find that in letting go of judging yourself for what you are reading, and instead just enjoying the fact that you are reading, eventually you'll realize that it's a lot more useful to use that energy that you were wasting comparing yourself to others to having discussions about the thing you were reading with others. At this stage, I'm less concerned with what I read than I am with how or why I read. And if you can answer the how and the why questions for yourself, you'll find that in the end, it doesn't really serve you to compare how much or how little you read to other people as some sort of egoic pursuit. Number 3, put yourself in the shoes of the subjects. This tip, I don't know why you guys, but it really clicked with me and got me reading more. I'm learning that one of my favorite ways to engage with reading books is getting invested in the subjects and seeing things from their perspective rather than my own. My experience of doing this has been that I really do begin to see things in a new light, and I'm a lot more emotionally invested in what I'm reading, which has the benefits not only of helping me to empathize and experience different ways of living and seeing the world, but I come away having retained a lot more of what I read as well, compared to when I was reading in a cold, detached way. Now, I'm not saying that I'm planning on cosplaying as any of the characters that I read in today's newspaper, for example, although maybe someday I will. I'm also fully able to recognize that sometimes reading does require you to engage with the text in a detached way, depending on the content. One tip to get better at putting yourself in the shoes of the subjects that you can try is that when you're reading, try to imagine the world of the book that you have using your own senses: touch, taste, smell, sight, and sound. When you do that, things really start to come alive. Number 4, read when you can. This one may sound the most obvious, but it's also the most powerful. Before I was reading more consistently, I would try to block off time in my calendar as reading time, which can work depending on what your schedule is like. For me personally though, it wasn't always so easy to adhere to reading during that blocked off time. Things would come up that would change my schedule, and I was becoming a lot more rigid with my schedule. And again, reading became viewed as a chore rather than as something that I actually wanted to do at the end of a day. So now instead, I bring my book with me when I'm out and about and keep it in sight to pick up when I have downtime throughout my day. What's really interesting about reading when I can is that it has revealed to me how much free time I wasn't really taking advantage of. And I want to be totally clear with you. I don't judge anyone for not reading when they can. I know that everyone has different lives, responsibilities, levels of literacy, lifestyles, and even just our physical, neurological, or any other condition will vary from person to person, and that does have an impact on our abilities to read and how often we can. But I'm not a medical expert, and so I wouldn't personally be able to speak to anyone's idiosyncratic situation. This is more something where I'm speaking from my own personal experience. All that to say, if you keep a book as accessible to you as possible, of course you're going to increase the chances that you'll find yourself reading more. Number 5. Take notes that are relevant to you. This last tip is one that I'm still working to implement with more consistency, but I can tell you it's incredibly powerful. As someone who wasn't always the biggest reader, now I come across subjects, ideas, and words that I've never experienced before, which is so incredible and eye-opening. It really is one of the great joys of reading, the exposure to things that were previously unfamiliar to you. I find that when I'm taking notes, writing my thoughts, questions, or just noting things that stand out to me when I'm reading, that I process the information better than I would if I was just skimming. It also has the added benefit of keeping the context fresh when you pick up that book again if you've put it down for a while. I can go back to my notes and reconnect with the things that I had found relevant, which not only helps to jog my memory, but keeps me meaningfully engaged in the text. It's not always going to be possible to carry around a notebook with you, I totally understand that, but even if you're just jotting down some thoughts about what you've read in your notes app, I have found that I have a higher chance of reading with more relevant details in mind, and I think you will as well. Pro tip: try taking notes about what's going on in the book using your own words. They say that the way you truly know something is if you are able to speak about it in your own words. It can be really easy to highlight every sentence of a text, or to think you have to memorize the exact phrasing of a chapter to capture it, but in my experience, it's a lot better for my own development to articulate things in my own words, and I also find it a lot more interesting that way too. So, that does it for this video. I would love to hear about what you're reading and what your experience of reading has been like if you're open to sharing that down in the comments. I'm so excited to pick up my book after making this video, you guys. If you liked this video or found it helpful, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow me on social media at Congruent Academy. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, power to the people in process.